These are just some of the protests that have taken place in 2023.
Nazis! Off our streets! Off our streets!
Small boats, asylum seekers and migrants has become a political battleground and an issue for communities across the country.
They are not refugees, they are illegal immigrants.
Why are these people who are illegal, they have no documentation, why are they being given a 4-star hotel?
Here in Llanelli, people have been protesting about plans for asylum seekers to be placed in a 4-star hotel. They say it's important to the local economy. But this situation has given leverage to groups described as far-right who are taking advantage of the tensions and infiltrating community-organised protests. One of them is Patriotic Alternative, a group run by Mark Collett, a former leading member of the British National Party who's expressed admiration for Adolf Hitler and recommends Mein Kampf to his supporters. Matt Collins is a former member of far-right groups who now works for Hope Not Hate, a group who campaigns against them.
These people are quite skilled at getting into communities and causing trouble and stirring things up. The Patriotic Alternative are incredibly active. They're not a particularly large organisation, but they're incredibly active and incredibly dedicated.
I'd say there's maybe around 400 people here today. These protests are getting bigger and bigger.
The group's ideology is based around the far-right conspiracy theory of white genocide, a rhetoric that falsely claims there is a covert plan to replace white populations with ethnically diverse communities. On their ideology, Patriotic Alternative told us, the plan to replace white Britons is not a covert plan, as you falsely claim, but an overt attempt to reduce the indigenous people of these islands to a minority in their own ancestral homeland.
We've talked about some of them, the Great Replacement Theory, white supremacism, neo-Nazism. That is what I would describe as unlawful terrorist activity that would put them right in the crosshairs of MI5 and counter-terrorism policing.
The town of Finesse has attracted attention from groups described as far-right from outside the area. But there are groups getting involved in a local protest closer to home, in the form of Voice of Wales, who describe themselves as investigative journalists and travel the UK to conduct interviews.
Well, look, it makes you question absolutely.
One Voice of Wales member has a strong history of affiliation to other hard-right groups, and another, James Harvey, from the Voice of Wales student wing, is seen questioning the Holocaust. What you're about to hear is extremely offensive.
You look into Hitler and you look into what the Nazi Party did, and I'm not defending them at all, but 6 million Jews weren't killed. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the concentration camps, most of them weren't equipped with gas chambers.
And here, Dan Morgan and James Harvey discussing the ban on Tom Jones' song Delilah from International Rugby in Cardiff.
In the stadium, because apparently it was sung, but apparently it wasn't heard. Yep. Now, I don't know much about that, but I was thinking it's not Somalian enough, really, is it? For Cardiff, that's what they want. They want the Somalian anthem. Did they have what is their anthem? Just I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. No, I wouldn't even do that.
Voice of Wales said the comments made by Mr. Harvey had been taken out of context. He has since clarified his position. He fully believes that the genocide and horrific mass murder of millions of people, Jews and others, took place during World War II. The group failed to explain the comments and hand gestures used when discussing Somalis. Patriotic Alternative and Voice of Wales are different groups with different members, goals and beliefs, but both groups travel around the country in a bid to spread their message. For the first time, we've been able to track the movements of these two groups, finding out where they are protesting and which places they repeatedly return to. Analysis by BBC Verify and Newsnight shows they cumulatively organised or attended 50 protests since the start of the year, with the vast majority focusing on accommodation for asylum seekers. They've been all over the UK, including Scotland, but favour some areas with multiple visits to the same location, like Long Eaton and Haydock. You might remember the Nosy demonstration, which quickly descended into violence, resulting in a police van being set on fire. And here you can see the Voice of Wales protest in blue. The majority in Wales, but some have spilled over the border into England, like in Portland, Manchester and Scampton. And like Patriotic Alternative, they return to the same sites multiple times with their key focus on Swansea and Llanelli.
I think there are two things here. People have a genuine concern about large quantities of people coming into areas for the pressure that they're putting on local service, the schools, the doctors, and everything else. Whether they are people coming from abroad or big developments mean huge pressure on local services, those are legitimate concerns. What we're seeing here, though, are people who have no local interests. They're just anti-immigrant. They're racists, and they want to take advantage of people who have got genuine local concerns in order to push their own racist agendas.
The idea that they would be using a local protest who might have legitimate concerns about immigration, if that balanced debate is hijacked by people who start talking about invasion and start talking about these people being dangerous, that's an extremist conversation. It drives a polarised debate. It means people from the extreme right wing get very heated, which means people protesting against them from the extreme left get very heated, and then you're going to see violence, and then you're going to see a problem for law and order.
The Bibby Stockholm is moored in Dorset. It's currently empty, but forms part of efforts by the Home Office to reduce the £8 million daily bill to taxpayers by moving asylum seekers out of hotels and into alternative accommodation. It's caused some unease amongst locals and has been jumped on by both Patriotic Alternative and the Voice of Wales.
The reason why Voice of Wales is here is because this affects everybody in the United Kingdom. The tap needs turning off.
Unlike Voice of Wales, Patriotic Alternative organises protests such as this one here in Portland. It was a small group and it had a low turnout. One of them was Michelle Vardy, a concerned local, who we also found had been posting in anti-asylum Facebook groups.
This is a poor area and a lot of people, they can't even afford to feed their children 3 meals a day in the school holidays, yet they've seen a barge coming in and our government is paying for 3 meals a day for them.
And would it worry you if you knew that the leader of that group has sympathies towards Adolf Hitler, for example?
If that's the case, yes, but I also understand that a lot of these groups that are against all the illegal immigrants coming here, they always get slurred with far right and racist tendencies from other groups like Stand Up to Racism, when I'm not sure that's the case.
Michelle told us she engages with both left and right-wing groups on Facebook. "250 miles north in Wigan, another demonstration took place. Maureen O'Brien is a local independent councillor in Wigan. After listening to the concerns of constituents, she organised a small protest against the plans for residents, but it was infiltrated by Patriotic Alternative.
It was mainly, there's about 200 to 300 people came, very genuinely concerned people who live locally, and I think it's very unfair that the main hotel that they use for weddings, there's a lot of people employed here, are just losing that without consultation.
At that protest, a group called Patriotic Alternative came down. Did you know about that?
I'd put a post on Facebook stating no one from the far right, far left, any organisations like that were welcome. It was purely for genuinely concerned residents of Wigan and Standish. I think a few did turn up from, is it Patriotic Alternative? I'd never heard of them, I didn't know who they were. I don't want somebody coming with their agenda and using my protest, not just mine, obviously the people of Wigan's genuine protest, very genuine, kind people who are welcoming. We don't want to be tarred with the same brush as those who are maybe there for other reasons, pushing their own agenda. We don't want that.
Patriotic Alternative say they've been welcomed by communities all over the UK.
There is a very different agenda by some of these racist groups where they're talking about no more migrants, we're full, talking about white genocide, really trying to whip up fears, completely illegitimate fears amongst reasonable and moderate people. Those are the people we absolutely need to guard against.
as thousands continue to cross the channel in small boats, and the urgent need to house asylum seekers persists. This is an issue that will continue to ignite communities and in turn gives far-right groups fertile ground to exploit existing tensions in a bid to spread their ideology.